back. Return or revert means already, it includes back. Listen to Jodi Kantor on MSNBC, New York Times reporter, on Mitt Romney's characteristics. Here we go.
Well, what we were really looking at is the biographical influence of faith on Mitt Romney's life. Now, nobody thinks that as president he would sort of impose Mormon doctrine or rule with, a Bible on his desk in the Oval Office.
By the way, that cracks me up. Nobody would assume that he would rule with a Bible on his desk. Isn't that amazing? Like, that's an act of thorough extremism. We have to have this somehow. Well, what president didn't is one question, but it shows you how thorough the secularism on the left is pervasive. We are normal. If you don't do what we do, act like we act, and think like we think, you are the extremists. Nah, nobody would assume that he's going to impose Mormon doctrine or rule with the Bible on his desk. Well, I would. I would have a Bible on my desk. If I ruled, this is very funny, ruled. It's another left-wing notion, that presidents rule. So isn't that interesting? Not govern. Actually, perhaps thinking of the present president. We continue, please.
Mormon doctrine or rule with, a Bible on his desk in the Oval Office and make decisions that way. We're talking about much more subtle matters of worldview, of morality, of values. And so some of the things that we see he learned from the church is a real emphasis on persistence and resilience, a real emphasis on rules. And another interesting thing I learned is that prayer plays a huge role in the way he sort of approaches the world and makes decisions. He prays quite a lot, quite seriously, and he has prayed on both political and business decisions.
This is serious stuff. The man has prayed on business and political decisions. That's right. That is a smoking gun. Or better, that is an open Bible. Do you hear this stuff? The better you know the left, the more despondency and cheerfulness enters your life. This is precious. I want to thank whoever dug this up. Whom do I thank, Sean? I thank Alan. Alan, thank you. This has been priceless, listening to this New York Times reporter describe what her studies of Mitt Romney have revealed. She's written a book on the Obamas, so she covers the candidates for the New York Times. I saw in her bio something worrisome. She graduated Columbia and then Harvard Law School. It's a very dangerous combo. Very, very indeed. That's why she would say something like she said, look, we have to understand, he is not going to rule. I love that, rule. He's not going to rule by mandating any Mormon doctrine or rule with a Bible on his desk. A Bible on his desk. I mean, of course, he's not that extreme. But he does pray. That's a killer. What does she think happens when he prays? What does she think it's somewhat like? Like tarot card or tarot card readings? I think that's what they think. He sits there and says, God, give me a policy, please, on Honduras. There's your Honduras policy, Mr. Romney. That's what I think. What else can they think? What if he simply bows his head and says, "Oh God, oh Lord, I would like guidance. I need your guidance and wisdom in making decisions for my country. Is that okay? I'd like to ask Jodi Kantor what disturbs her. I would do it in a very, in a completely respectful way. Because the only thing that could disturb somebody is if they think he's praying for policy details. Keep going. What's next? This is truly window opening. I know people say eye opening, but I prefer the other. Go ahead.
You wrote that some of his traits as a Republican do mirror the traditional Mormon traits as well. What were you able to learn about those mirror images that reflect back from being a Mormon to being a Republican?
One of the most interesting is a belief in American exceptionalism.
Oh, no. Oh. That's worrisome.
What a strange person.
He believes in American exceptionalism and he prays? You get the message? This is somebody to be scared of. Continue.
Every political candidate goes out on the trail and unfurls his or her patriotism, right? But Mitt Romney's is a little bit different because Mormons actually believe that God had a plan for the United States.
Oh, my. I'm speechless. Mormons believe that God has a plan for the United States. I could see the folks on this is very frightening. Now, here's a little hint, and you might want to check this out, folks. So did every founder, including Jefferson, including Adams, including Washington, and including Franklin, who were not known for normative Christian theological beliefs. They all believed God had a plan for the United States. So let's see what really worries them. He prays and he believes that God has a plan for the U.S. Does it get worse? Let's find out.
The country is sort of divinely inspired, that the Constitution is divinely inspired, that our country is marked by God to play a unique role in history.
This is scary stuff. For the left, we have no unique role to play. That's the beauty.
I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism.
What a bad choice on the Greek one. Oh, that was, in retrospect, I'm sure he wishes he could take that back. We are very exceptional. We will leave the euro. We will be the first country to leave the euro, depart from the euro currency. Did we finish with Jodi Kantor? Please keep it. This has earned a place in the show's Hall of Fame. I would like to know from you, my dear listeners, does this scare your pants off? What is the phrase that we would use? It scared the living daylights. Yes. What does that mean, living daylights, actually? Did it scare the living daylight saving time? That I understand. Wow. Oh, wait, so there were 3 frightening things. Oh, wait, one frightening he won't do. Have a Bible on his desk. But 2 frightening. He prays on political and social policy. And what was the third? Believes that God has a plan for America. Wow. That's why I said, as soon as I saw Columbia and Harvard Law School, I just had a sense we were in for this. Meaning that this is what people learn. You learn to fear. This is what they did They were 100% successful at Columbia with this woman. 100%. Yes, indeed. Let's go to Paul in Anaheim, California. Hello, Paul of Anaheim.
Thank you for taking the call, Dennis.
Thank you.
Just a minor point. I was curious why this person would not, I have my own idea on this, of course, but why would they not equally suggest this of Obama, since he was all religious and church-going and all that? Why would the Mormon, and I'm not Mormon, by the way, why would the Mormon get targeted like that, other than just a simple agenda?
Oh, well, to be fair, in this case, if it were an evangelical Christian running, they would have said the same things.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
What they do at the New York Times vis-a-vis Mormons is periodically they will have an article on some terrible action by Mormons 132 years ago. This is what they will do. But it's interesting. Wouldn't it be interesting if they had a list of all the bad things the left has done when Barack Obama ran?
Because Mormons actually believe that God had a plan for the United States
Get a signed copy of Dennis's new book, Still the Best Hope, Why the World Needs American Values to Triumph, at the Prager store, www.dennisprager.com, or call 800-225-8584.
That's for a signed copy, or you got a signed copy tonight in Glendale, California at the Barnes & Noble. In any event, please get my book. I ask you to do so. It is not a favor to me, okay? If you want to do it as a favor to me, that's fine. But as a favor to the values that many of us share. And if you don't, it's a wonderful opportunity to bounce your values off of what I define as the American, the leftist, and the Islamist. Still the best hope. Why the world needs, not just America needs, American values to triumph. This was precious beyond belief to hear the New York Times reporter describing these somewhat troubling characteristics of Mitt Romney, whose Mormon faith leads him to believe that God has a plan for America, or even that the Constitution is divinely inspired. I think the founders were divinely inspired. I say that of very, very few people. I think Bach was too. By the way, if you think Bach was, what does that make you in Jodi Kantor's mind? Is that okay? Can you believe that a musician is divinely inspired? All righty, let's go. We were with Paul in Anaheim? Paul? Is he gone? We took him, yeah. I guess not. He was saying that why don't they say the same thing about Barack Obama, since he prays and so on. But it doesn't matter. When the left uses God and religion, it's terrific. When the right does, it's frightening. That's how it works. When policies that the left agrees with are stated to be God's will, God made me gay, for example. I don't mean me, Dennis, but when one says that, then you can invoke God all you want. God wants marriage to be elastic enough to include members of the same sex. That's beautiful. But God wants marriage to be between a man and a woman. That's fascist. There's a whole series of things like that. It's okay for the left, but it's not okay for the right, and God is a very big one of those. All right, let's go to Phil in San Diego, California. Hello, Phil. Dennis Prager.
Hello, Dennis Prager. How are you?
I am truly well, thank you.
You look good. Hey,
When I look good on radio, or I look good...
Well, I was looking at your webpage yesterday, and I just, you look good.
Thank you. That's very kind. Those are doctored photos.
She brings highlight to the term silly season. I mean, it's just stupid.
I like that. Silly season. Yes, it is.
That's what they're calling this time of year.
Yeah, that's what it was. I agree.
Anyway, we are very fortunate in San Diego, Dennis, to have Liberty Tobacco, which you pimp on the radio. We love it. It's my one of my all-time favorite places.
It is. I get a big smile on my face just entering the establishment.
Yeah, Charlie's a great guy.
He is.
Anyway, on to politics. Has Hewitt ever bought a cigar? I want to know.
Look, you're talking very, very serious and painful area. I can't enter it. I love Hugh, but on this matter, every man sins.
Okay.
So I won't go further.
I know Romney's available to the talk radio listening audience, and I appreciate it. You've had him, and I know Michael's had him, and Hugh's had him, and he seems available. But I'm wondering, do you guys ever get together with other conservative talk radio people and consider maybe drafting something that you can send to the Romney campaign? It seems like he keeps missing out on what the public's thinking, especially we conservatives.
It is a painful, and we're both being very serious here, it is a painful issue. There are times when I know that many of us talk show hosts have better answers than any of the Republican nominees. Why they don't consult, so to speak, with us is a very interesting question. I have theories. There's somewhat of a bubble that exists in all political life, and it's what can I tell you? I think that there would be a real improvement, but we have to deal with what we have, and I am firmly in his camp. We'll be back in a moment. Hello, my friends. Dennis Prager here, and let's go to Lawrence, Kansas, and John. Hello, John of Lawrence.
Well, hello, Dennis. How are you this morning?
That was good, but you have to be in Hawaii to do that.
I know. Say, I really love your show. Happiness is a serious problem. Changed my life. I wish you'd do a book on how you think so clearly in such a muddy world. And I wish you had a family hour to complement the male-female hour.
Well, thank you. You know what? The clarity one is the reason I could do a family hour. That those issues would so often be subsumed into the male-female hour, and something has to be a topic that would have hold interest, 52 weeks a year for years. So, but the clarity is a very interesting thing. I will do. Let's mark that down. I'd like to do an hour on clear thinking. Okay, go ahead.
I came in a little bit late this hour and heard you talking about Jodi's article, so I went out to the New York Times to look it up.
I wasn't talking about her article. I was talking about her appearance on MSNBC.
Okay, well, so I wanted to get some background material on it, so I read her article where she states some of the same things that you were talking about. And actually, and I'm not a big New York Times fan, but it really is a very square.
Oh, I believe that. I believe it. I was making jolly fun here of the tone of what she's saying.
Oh, I see. I didn't get that from her article.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I fully agree with you, and that's why I took your call. I want people to understand. I want to be scrupulously fair. I don't believe that she's anti-Mormon. I didn't even imply that. In fact, I said to the previous caller, or one of the previous callers, that if he were an evangelical Christian, she would have said a very similar set of things. It's just... The point is not that she's criticizing, or she certainly wasn't mocking. It's that to her, a secular liberal, the New York Times, the notion that a man prays is worthy of noting is as if it's an idiosyncrasy, if you will, at the least, or that. But my favorite line was, look, he's certainly not going to impose his Mormon beliefs on America or rule with a Bible on his desk. Whoa, isn't that interesting? Or that he thinks that the founders were divinely inspired or America has a divine role. Well, that these things strike these people if usually as frightening and always as peculiar. John, it's a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you very much. And let's see. Let's go to more of your calls because this is such a big issue here. Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Susan. Hello, Susan. Dennis Prager.
Yes. If this is going to continue about attacking Mormonism, then Reverend Wright must be brought up by the pundits, not Mitt Romney. The alleged bribe that was given by Obama to Reverend Wright, $150,000, not to say anything more in 2008. That's in Ed Klein's book, and it was on Fox and Sean Hannity. But we've got to fight back. If this is going to continue with this Mormonism for the next 5 months, we've got to use Reverend Wright.
Well, if indeed this does continue, well, I don't know what this is. This was not an attack on his Mormonism. This was really not about Mitt Romney. It is about how the left perceives these views. That's what I wanted to make clear. The Reverend Wright issue is one that has always disturbed me, but it doesn't pay political dividends to bring it up again, and let me explain why. The man has had 4 years in which to either alienate or attract Americans. When you don't know someone, and nobody knew Barack Obama. By the way, I'm not sure anybody knows him today, but at least one knows his policies. When you don't know someone, you can only know their background, and so the background is used to try to give you a clue as to who the person is. But now that you know the person for 4 years, it's irrelevant. It just is. It either confirms whatever bad you suspected, or it shows that had, for those who like him, had no effect on his thinking that would trouble them. Oh, and there are even others who like the Reverend Wright and are very happy that he went to the Reverend Wright's church and considered the Reverend Wright a mentor. All right, thank you for that. Ontario, California, and Brunwyn. Hi, Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. I have a talking point I would like to suggest to interviewers, reporters, talk show hosts, as the whole Mormon issue comes up and will probably increase, and they have comments about how it's impacted Mitt Romney. I wish people would continually say, how has it impacted Harry Reid? He is also a Mormon, probably arguably a very, very influential Democratic leader. Although he and Mitt probably don't see everything eye to eye. Number one, it proves that Mormons do not walk ideologically in lockstep. And number two, he probably believes a lot of the same things in the same way. And so I wish people would constantly, as they try to hammer Mitt with that, well, what about Harry Reid?
Are you married?
Yeah, I am.
Does your husband think you're bright?
Well, on and off, pretty much most of the time, I guess. I don't know.
You're very bright.
I'm Mormon, and it just bugs me that, of course...
What you said is so significant. Exactly right. Well, I mean, to be fair, nobody gives a hoot about anybody's backgrounds in this way except for
That's
president.
Right.
If you're not president...
bring it up when you can.
But yeah, you're right. And by the way, it does show, and I say this almost sadly, the diversity of views, how they could have opposite views and be faithful Mormons.
That's true.
Yep, you're right. Very good call. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show.
Coal makes us sick. Oil makes us sick. I don't know how anyone of Hispanic heritage could be a Republican. Okay? So I need to say more.
Hello, my friends. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Been a very good hour here and in analyzing the way in which the religious human being, not just the Mormon Mitt Romney, but the religious human being is regarded as an outlier in the secular left world. man would never be so extreme as to govern or rule, as the New York Times reporter put it, with a Bible on his desk.
Now, nobody thinks that as president he would sort of impose Mormon doctrine or rule with, a Bible on his desk in the Oval Office and make decisions that way.
I would love to ask her, and I will invite her on, actually, because when I say I'd like to ask her, it's not to challenge. I don't get a big thrill out of winning debates or engaging in them. If I have to, I have to. But I would ask her, what would she envision somebody who did rule from the Bible, a president who, quote, ruled, unquote, from the Bible, what would he do? That's what I would love to know. What would be the distinctive elements of somebody who had a Bible on his desk and ruled that way? I would love, if you're on the left, or if you are scared of the Bible, or Bible believers, let's put it that way. We don't have a lot of time, but I wonder if you could get in. I don't know the answer. See, usually I know how my opponents think. I don't know in this case. What would somebody who actually had the Bible on his desk and, quote-unquote, ruled from it, how would they rule? What if the basic proposition that the person had from having a Bible on his desk and, quote-unquote, ruling from it would be, love God and love your neighbor? Right? For both Judaism and Christianity, that those are up there. What are they afraid of? That witches will be burned? I mean it. I don't know the answer. It is so instinctive for folks on the left to fear people who do, however, believe in the Bible, unless they're leftists. I would just like to know what it is that Jodi Kantor would fear here. We'll try to have her on. It's really worth asking. The Ultimate Issues Hour is coming up. Barnes & Noble, Glendale, California this evening. Info at DennisPrager.com. We continue.